What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome back to BBB, Triple B's, Bunk Bread Breakdowns. Let anybody tell you differently. Big Baller Brand is no longer there. Farce. We are the real deal. Speaking of farces, we're getting into the all fade team today, the all farce team of rookies. I know a lot of you guys have done your rookie drafts already, but hopefully you got some more coming up because we're going to let you in on a little secret about guys that you should not be drafting in your rookie drafts. We got about 10. We got maybe 11 or 12. They've got their Bunk Bed Breakdowns Listener League announcement today as well, which we will probably get to a little bit later on in the show. There's 11 of you guys that are going to be competing against Mike and Noah in a Startup Dynasty League. They did not even invite me into the league until about 5 seconds ago, and out of spite, I fucking denied their request for me to join the league. It's ridiculous. You start fucking building a monopoly over here, and then all the snakes in the grass start coming out, and they start chopping your legs and shit. I don't even know what's going on in my conglomerate organization anymore. I'm ready to fucking go. How we doing, boys?
Doing well.
Good.
I thought you were going to introduce us as the frauds when you were introing the show, but I'm glad you didn't.
I'm glad that that's the way you see yourself, though, Noah. Very, very telling. Y'all ready to roll today and talk about some real frauds?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, hit that intro. So if you want to just see who the 11 listeners are that got into the league, we'll put a timestamp down below. So if you want to skip right to that and then come bike over here, you can do that, or you could do us a favor and actually listen to the episode. That would be fantastic as well. But either way, if you want to skip there, then come back because you're so fucking excited, timestamp down below. Michael, take it away.
All right. First up on the list, we're going to start off at the most important position in the NFL, one of the most important positions in Superflex. It's going to be Noah's favorite player of all time, future franchise carrier of the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin the Duck Herbert. So we put him on here.
This is like, sorry to interrupt, all right, but this is like when people introduce like women as their future ex-wife. Like, Noah, this is like you already know that this is your future ex-quarterback. Like that shit hurts so going into the relationship.
People saying I look like him too. It's a rough go for me, man.
You know, there's a lot of heartbreak in your future.
Yeah,
so a lot of heartbreak in my past too, so I'm ready.
So, I mean, look, when it comes to Justin Herbert, I think there's a lot of good things to say. He looks like a quarterback. He's built like a quarterback. He's athletic like a quarterback. The only problem is he does not play like a quarterback. So that is why we have him on our all-fade list. And he's going currently as the 10th pick overall in Superflex leagues, which is the 1.110 for those of you math nerds out there. Going as the QB3. And the reason why we're fading him is because I think there's better players behind him. You can get some tier 1 wide receivers, guys like Rager, guys like Jefferson that can go behind him. What do y'all think about Justin Herbert?
You know how I think. I don't want to talk about Herbert. For Superflex leagues, I actually don't hate him at the 110. But like you say, if Jalen Rager is going behind him, I'm completely fine with it. I like how our notes section just says "fuck Herbert." Like that's honestly how I feel in my heart of hearts. But he's the guy that can get you points on the ground and hopefully through the air. But as you said, right, when you can get a guy like Jalen Rager, who I personally have as my wide receiver 1, and I think both you guys have as wide receiver 2, there's just a ton of value there. And even in Superflex leagues, like we contemplated putting Joe Burrow on this list just because we believe that CEH and JT are better values. Because when you look at startup drafts, right, like the only quarterbacks really going round 1 are the top 2 obvious guys and maybe Dak Prescott and maybe Kyler Murray. Like these running backs are going to go in the first, like late first, early second of startups. And what are the chances that Joe Burrow does that as well? As for Herbert, I doubt he plays more than like 8 games this year. And if you want to buy somebody that's going to improve their value year 1 to year 2, I think if he starts the second half of the year and he doesn't look good, then his value is probably going to plummet from wherever the 110 was, kind of like Dwayne Haskins of last year.
Yeah, I think Herbert's a guy that the majority of people look at the talent and kind of feel the same way. That, I mean, he's just a quarterback in Superflex, and that's the reason why people take him. You know, he was number 6 overall pick, so there's going to be some value there for a long time. But basically what we're doing in this episode is telling you to fade players based on their ADP right now. As Mike said, he's going at the 110. He's the 3rd quarterback off the board. When you have guys like Rager who can be a foundational piece of your actually skill position offense going forward for, you know, hopefully his entire rookie contract, et cetera, that is why we're looking at other positions over a guy like Justin Herbert, where, I mean, he could, you know, you've heard the comparison, but he's like a Mitch Trubisky in terms of just like accuracy and consistency. It's got the flashes where you see him make some plays, but like it's so much more important to be able to do that over the long run. So Herbert's a guy who has definitely had his struggles during his time in college, and typically those kind of things don't get better going into the NFL against quicker, faster, stronger defenders with better coaches and better schemes going against them. So Herbert is on our all fade team as the QB1.
Yep. And given that this is super flex, we're going to get another QB in the fade. And this one is probably not a shock to anybody. It is Jordan Love, who the Green Bay Packers took inexplicably with their first round pick.
Herbert and Jordan Love. Love that.
2 great picks. He's currently going as the 22nd overall rookie in Superflex leagues per May ADP, which is the 2.10 as the QB4. And so the reason why we're saying fade these guys is because we feel like there's better value later on in the round. And so going behind him is Jalen Hurts at QB5. And I don't know about you guys. I know he's got lowered draft capital, but I think these two guys are kind of in like very similar situations where they're not going to start in the near term. And I would just rather bet on a winner than a loser.
Definitely. Yeah, and if Jordan Love starts sooner rather than later, like if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, I don't think that's good for him. He's somebody that coming into the league definitely needs a lot more polish on his game. Like I listened to an interview and he admitted, he's like, yeah, I force throws way too many times and I throw too many interceptions. Like you don't really want to hear that out of a guy that's, taking over for Aaron Rodgers. And realistically, if Rodgers doesn't get hurt, I think he has like 4 years left. So you're basically putting a guy in your taxi squad for 2 years and hopefully like in that third year, Aaron Rodgers gets cut or something for like no dead cap and he makes it onto the field. As for Jalen Hurts, we know that Carson Wentz isn't the healthiest guy despite all those like white knights on Twitter trying to tell you that he's the best quarterback in the NFC East every other day. But he does bring a lot of rushing upside to the table. Unlike Jordan Love, he is kind of mobile, but he's not going to do what Jalen Hurts does on the ground. So seeing as he's going a little bit later than Jordan Love, you should just fade the position or trade back, acquire more capital, and then go with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I actually don't hate Jordan Love here, to be honest. The fact that you can get Jalen Hurts after Jordan Love is what makes me not want to take Love here. But I don't know. This is one of those things where I kind of step outside the numbers and I'm looking at it from like a football standpoint. There's a lot of dysfunction within that organization, right? There's some kind of disconnect between Rodgers, the coaching staff, and the executives, whatever's going on there. I feel like usually that stuff plays itself out sooner rather than later, right? You don't just like hold on to that for like 3 years. So I do think Love gets on the field quicker than most people actually anticipate. So his value is going to shoot up. As to whether or not you believe he's like a talented player, that's really what it's going to come down to. It's obviously kind of annoying that you're going to have to hold him onto your bench for a while, probably be a taxi squad player. But I like Love probably a little bit more than other people just because I do think something's weird within Green Bay and there will be changes semi soon. I know the contract's up in the air and he's probably there for the next 2 years minimum. But I could totally see Love taking over. And in 2 years, I mean, you're going to be really happy that you held on to Love if he takes over as a Green Bay starting quarterback.
That's definitely fair. That's why I kind of grouped them into the same bucket. If there was no Jalen Hurts, I would be totally cool with taking this bet because you're basically – what you're getting like a protected asset, right? Like his value is not going to decrease. We know that. So it's a guaranteed increasing value asset. You just have to wait 2 years. And
that's the thing, too. It's like – with a guy like Herbert who can get on the field and immediately like play poorly, his value, all jokes aside, his value can plummet quickly. Like if we see him have a really poor rookie year, you're not going to want to invest in him long term. But I feel like Jordan Love could not step on the field and have more value than Justin Herbert over the next 2 years because you'll always be able to sell him with the fact that, he's going to be a starting quarterback. So I would say that his value is going to rise year over year because he's actually getting closer to being the starter there.
And with no parallels to Mahomes and Trubisky here. We've seen it in the past, so maybe that's true because you're drafting Jordan Love knowing you're not going to be able to start him for the next few years. Justin Herbert, you're going to start him and you're going to be disappointed in the second half of the year. So you got to take
Is
that.
Is it possible that Justin Herbert ends up being really good for fantasy?
It's possible. I mean, it's like Josh Allen, right? Like Josh Allen is not a good quarterback by any means, by any passing efficiency.
But you would have been happy as shit to have invested into him at the 110.
Yeah, but you would have been happy as shit, which is why I'm not saying you have to fade Herbert in the first round. It's only because I'm seeing Rager going behind him that I'm saying to fade him because I'd rather
strictly
take
a Rager thing.
Yeah, if there was no Rager, like if there's no Rager and there's no like Justin Jefferson behind him, like I'm totally fine. Like I've never let Justin Herbert fall out of the first round because of draft capital alone. It's just it's literally just based on the guys you can get behind him.
Yeah, there's too many good players. And unlike that statement, we have A.J. Dillon, another example of the Green Bay Packers being absolute fucking buffoons. You take this guy in the second round. He has good burst. He has good speed testing-wise. But when you guys watch this guy play, he's like a bowling ball. He just doesn't do anything. He doesn't move side to side. He just goes straight into the offensive line. I know Graham Barfield wrote up his yards created. I'm pretty sure he was like terrible in that. And he hits he checks all the boxes that you want out of a running back, right? Like size, adjusted speed, the burst, the draft capital. But after seeing Green Bay sink a first-round pick into Jordan Love and like a third-round pick on an H-back, do we really hold much value in him being a second-round pick? And on top of that, I think personally, like his value is completely tied to Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones not coming back next year. They're both free agents, and I just don't see a world where if Aaron Rodgers is still on this team, that they head into the season with Devontae Adams as their wide receiver 1, Josiah DeGuara as their tight end 1, and AJ Dillon as their RB1. I don't see that happening. They're probably going to re-sign one, if not both, of those other running backs, and they do everything better than AJ Dillon other than being like 250 pounds.
Yeah, I was going to say it's no coincidence that we have 2 Packers back-to-back on this list because they were terrible fucking draft picks in real life as well. AJ Dillon's like, it's funny, our analysis on AJ Dillon, just like as a brand here, has been sort of a roller coaster. Because I remember the first episode we got on, I was like, yo, I cannot believe that dudes like AJ Dillon. When I watched him, he can't move from side to side. Like he never makes dudes
He's like
miss.
DK Metcalf, but behind center.
And then we saw, we saw him at the combine and he blew shit away. And then people were like going back to my tweet when I was like, this guy sucks. People were like, yeah, what about now? And I'm like, I mean, fucking, he's just a fat fucking asshole who runs really fast. But like for legit, like you said, with Graham Barfield, yards created, he was one of the worst he's ever scouted. He's just not elusive. And the only way a guy like that gets it done is if you're like, you need to be in like the LeGarrette Blount type role, circa New England
Eddie Lacy type of role, yeah.
2016. Yeah, Eddie Lacy was way better than fucking Eddie Lacy was actually like pretty nimble for his fat ass. He was he wasn't always fat too. Eddie Lacy like was a beast at one point, and then he ate his way out.
At one single point, he was a beast.
1 year.
Yeah, one single point, and then he went and got a fucking Big Mac, and it was all downhill from there. But AJ Dillon, this is tricky. He's another guy that I'm not like I'm personally not fading him altogether, but I don't love the value here at I guess 208 because if there are guys like who else is going after him that you have
Antonio Gibson's going. Well, he's the RB9. I think he's like early third round.
Yeah, that's really close. But if there are guys like Laviska Shenault that fall behind him, like I know in one of my drafts I took Laviska at 208 or 209.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
Dillon was probably like one pick before or after, and I'm taking Laviska every single time there. But Dillon is like you brought up the RB contracts. I mean, Green Bay clearly has no idea what the fuck they're doing in terms of like signing and drafting and shit. So they could end up signing Aaron Jones to a longer term deal. They're going to let one of those guys go for sure. If it's Williams, then Dillon's going to have a carved out role. Like I do think the fact that he was a second round pick is definitely going to be something to be factored in. I think it gives him more of a floor than a ceiling, but just the type of player he is tells you it's so tough because Aaron Jones has been so fucking good on the goal line. And like, how can you take him off the goal line, right? He's been the most efficient goal line back since he's entered the NFL, like statistically speaking. And when you watch him, he's just so shifty in those tight spaces. But then Green Bay is going to be like, oh, but A.J. Dillon, like look at A.J. Dillon. How can we not give him the ball on the goal line? So that's where it gets really, really complicated. I feel like his ceiling is shot as long as Aaron Jones is there. But I do think he has an okay floor. So if you're a team that, you're competing, you have really good wide receivers, and all you need is like some kind of bottom barrel RB2 production, I don't necessarily hate Dillon, but he's definitely not a target of mine by any means.
He's another one where you have to kind of be patient, right? Like same with Jordan Love. Like literally everything that Green Bay drafted, you're just not going to get much fantasy production in year one. Like you have to wait on Jordan Love. You're going to have to wait on AJ Dillon to see if like Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams leaves next year. So, but like for running backs, the thing is like those first like 4 years of the rookie contract is like basically where they make their money. So you don't want to lose like 25% of that production investing in him. And again, it just comes down to ADP. If there wasn't an Antonio Gibson behind him, if there wasn't like a Laviska Shenault behind him, like I'm totally fine with it because he did get the draft capital and he has very plus size athleticism. But I think just replacement value kind of like drops him down a little bit for me.
Yeah, me personally, tough. Like I know Derrick Henry scarred me for life, but I just don't want to invest in a running back that can't catch passes. And I was going through PFF's draft guide. He dropped 3 of 24 catchable targets throughout his entire college career. So 1, that tells you he can't catch because he's not getting targets. And 2, it also tells you he can't catch because he literally can't catch. If he drops one of Aaron Rodgers' passes, he's gone. He's like into the underworld or wherever.
The first, I think Dillon was the first write-up I did in our draft guide. And like the very first stat I found is still the stat that blows me away. His freshman season, he had 300 carries without a fucking reception. I don't even understand how that's possible. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know. He needs to be in a position where he's getting a ton of goal line carries. You can't trust that to happen with Aaron Jones there. Not going to catch passes. So like the weight adjusted speed score is cool, but in theory, but not in practice, you know? So AJ Dillon, not a guy that I want. I do want to stick one in here before we go down the ADP. That's in between Dillon and Josh Kelly. That wasn't on the list. Darrington Evans is a guy that is a big time fade for me. I think he's going off probably around the same areas like McFarland, a little bit before Kelly probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what people say.
Going as the RB 9, 10, 11. RB 11s right after McFarland.
Right. So yeah, right between Dillon and Kelly there. So Darren, I don't care what people say. This was the worst fucking landing spot you could have. Like he could have landed in New York on the Giants, and they would have been like, good landing spot for Darren. We get like everyone likes Darrington Evans' talent, right? Like really explosive, like fun player to watch. But dude, Derrick Henry is going to command. You talk about the rookie contract, man. This is 25% of the contract. If you think Evans is doing anything this year, you're wrong. I also think that, like, okay, do you guys think Derrick Henry is with the Titans next year?
No,
I don't think so.
I do. I'm in the mindset that he is going to be there because their game plan just completely revolves around him. I don't think they all of a sudden go from, okay, we're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry 26 times a game, who's our like 250-pound back, and then all of a sudden flip it to be okay with a 203-pound back being the guy. I just think they've built that offense too much around him. And Henry's like still 25 years old. He only has 1 year of workhorse, like volume on his resume. So I don't think like they're going to look at him and be like, oh, he's old and washed up.
He's going to be 27.9 by the start of the next season, I think, because he's like a January birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
So
like
25 still.
Yeah, so he actually would put the reason why I don't think they're signing him though is because like they tagged him, so it's like
he's 25 right now. Yeah, he's 25 right now though.
But he's like 25 point, whatever it is now. By the start of the season, he'll be 25.9, right? And then by the start of next season, he'll be 26.9, so like nearing 27.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not 25, 26 is not
basically
like a death
30
running backs at
all.
all.
Off your list.
Dude, he's basically
We've actually
30,
had
bro.
this. This is like deja vu. We've had this conversation
so many times.
Here's the thing. I think Derrick Henry, like, I don't know what their financial plan was. Maybe it was because they knew they had to sign Ryan Tannehill. Maybe they were holding out in hopes to sign Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know what their mindset was, but it made sense to just tender Henry, get those pieces in place, and then worry about him next summer. That's the way I'm looking at it. I just don't think they just hand the keys over to Darrington Evans. Like,
there's no world that happens.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no upside there, and you're missing out on the rookie season. So from a fantasy perspective, like, I like Evans as a player a lot, but I don't see any way I'm taking him over like an Anthony McFarland or like AJ Dillon or whoever these guys are around him.
That's it. Actually, that's a good one because like in the rookie drafts, I just like find myself like I always had Darrington Evans available, and I was just like,
Don't want him.
I'm just gonna draft Anthony McFarland instead, even though he's like worse capital, just for those reasons you said. I mean, to be honest with you, like I was even like debating taking DJ Dallas over Darrington Evans just because he has a clearer path to like actually getting like touches and getting to play on the field, right? So I actually like that one, and also just like you just don't want to invest in scat backs that don't have a path to like a lead role.
You'll just be like trying to talk yourself into those guys year over year about how high their ceiling is, and it never happens. So
and then like right before they have their like Duke Johnson season, you trade them.
Exactly.
Oh, I can't wait for this next one, Mike. Why don't you kick this off? Next
one, another fantastic pick by the hometown Los Angeles Chargers, Joshua Kelly. I see a lot of people getting super excited about him here because they think he's gonna like be like Melvin Gordon light. I just don't see it. I mean, I know Noah, you spat out that really interesting stat where we saw that he broke less tackles, forced less broken tackles than Joe Burrow last year, which just isn't good to begin with. I mean, this guy's playing the Pac-12, so it's not like he's playing against legit defenses either. But he's going currently as the 29th player overall, so basically the mid of the third round as the RB12, which doesn't sound bad. But then when you look at guys that are going after him, guys like Lynn Bowden, SEC rushing leader last year as a quarterback, guys like DJ Dallas, who's like nice sleeper potential, someone that we like based on the film analysis that Nick has done and Noah has done. And you got KJ Hamler, a second-round wide receiver, who everyone hates for some reason. I don't know why. But there's just like so many more options better than him after him than like drafting some sort of like handcuffy like running back. I don't know. I just don't really get the Josh Kelly love.
There's a lot of pieces.
I don't think he's any better than Justin Jackson.
That's what I'm saying. Like people just assume like they act like Josh Kelly was a second, like he got picked where AJ Dillon was. Like if that was the case, then I'd be way more confident. But Justin Jackson has been good when he's on the field if he could stay healthy. I don't think the Chargers, necessarily just hand the keys right over to Josh Kelly. But like he's a guy I'm like super indifferent about. He's definitely not a target of mine. He's not like a guy I necessarily want on my team, but I'll take him, I guess, if he falls to me. But I'm definitely not excited about it because, I mean, Eckler's the guy back there. You don't have to be getting 24 touches a game to be the guy, and that's what Eckler's going to end up being.
Josh Kelly's one of those players where if you're at like the 408 and he's there and you take him, you're like, oh, nice, I got Josh Kelly. You're not like excited that you got him.
You like look around, like I couldn't let him pass me by. You know, like I had to make that pick. And you look at everybody else and you're like, yeah, I didn't want him, but you take him.
Like, what does he really bring to the table? Like Eckler's going to catch all the passes there, and obviously the passes going to go down with Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert under center. Justin Jackson's still going to spell Austin Eckler. The goal line role, I guess, is still up in the air, but do we expect them to be in that position as often with a rookie quarterback in Tyrod? Like, I don't know. It's just not like a sexy landing spot. It's not great draft capital. He had a good combine, but I just don't see the role that he carves out in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I brought it up before. I just think like the best comparison for him is like a Mike Davis type. He's a good NFL back guy that could do it all, but he's never someone that you want to put into your lineup unless all the other running backs are hurt aside him. So it's not a fun ceiling. Okay, floor is a real NFL running back, but that's really about it for Joshua Kelly.
Yep. And Joshua Kelly's excitement is only to be outdone by our next fade, which is Lamico
Poor man's Josh Kelly.
Poor man's Josh Kelly, Lamico P. Ryan. I don't know why anyone's even remotely excited. He's currently going as the 40th pick, so in the 4th round. So you're not investing much in him, and I get it. People are like, oh, well, he's not costing much. But when you look at who's going right behind him is DJ Dallas. So 100% of the time, I'm going to click the smash on DJ Dallas over Lamico, especially after they signed the ageless wonder, Frank Gore, who basically, I guess,
forgot about
play
that.
till he's 50. Right?
It's so annoying that they did that because there was going to be one asshole in your league that took P. Ryan. Like Animal took P. Ryan in our league. He was really excited. He tried to trade up to get P. Ryan, and then like 6 hours later, the Jets signed Frank Gore.
In his world record, the first person to be excited about LaMichael P. Ryan being drafted.
Yeah, I mean, I think, people get excited about the fact that, look, the Jets want to get rid of Bell, whatever, but, like, at the end of the day, Bell's a workhorse. There's just, like, it's, like, not a high-scoring offense, so you don't want to invest in those types of, like, roles anyways. So, for me, I'm fading Lamico P. Ryan, and I'm going to take DJ Dallas or maybe even, like, Trout God or one of the tight ends going later.
Yeah, I'll throw off some no, go ahead.
I was just saying, he's like a much less athletic Ty Montgomery. He catches passes and he can't run really well. And Ty Montgomery had 0 usable games last year. Even the game that I think Le'Veon Bell missed, neither running back, neither Bilal Powell or Ty Montgomery did anything that week. And I'm not sure what the matchup was, but like they want to commit to Le'Veon Bell for how dumb that may be, getting like 3.2 yards per carry. But it's a bad offensive line. It's not a good offense. Even if he does start, like what are you going to slot him in on a weekly ranking? Like a running back 3, like there's not much to be excited about in Michael P. Ryan. And I agree with you, Mike. Like DJ Dallas, who has a legitimate chance to take over that starting role, if Chris Carson isn't ready week 1, that's just an easy smash.
Yeah, I can't believe Dallas is going behind him. I can't imagine that will be the case going forward now that Frank Gore is signed. But yeah, I'll throw out a few more stats because I tweeted this out like last week about P. Ryan when I was looking up some more stuff about him after Animal drafted him. I want to let him know how bad of a pick it was. I started compiling stats just to throw at him. So basically, he did nothing his entire career besides that 40 catch senior year, right? But before that, the 3 years prior, the volume wasn't there, but the efficiency was terrible as well. Like that 40 catch senior year was one of the worst like catching seasons of all time. 6.6 yards per reception. And I'm looking at what he did on the ground. In terms of like his broken tackle rate, I was looking at Sports Info Solutions. He ranked 89th among like 120 NCAA running backs in 2019, 94th the year before that, and then 135th the year before that. His broken tackle on receptions ranked 89th. His 6.6 yards per reception ranks 147th, yards per target 143rd. So there's nothing on his profile that you can like other than that 40 catch season, which was extremely inefficient his senior year. Like I compared him to like Buck Allen, where he's big, so you want to talk yourself into this like big workhorse size guy that can catch passes, but he does legitimately nothing good. So please don't draft Michael.
This is the Kalen Ballage of 2020, guys. People got excited about Kalen Ballage because he had some nice catches, had like 40 catches or whatever it was, but just wasn't that good. So
yeah, he got definitely started ducking at passes. So.
And he's not even like built like cool like Kalen Ballage. Like you could roster Kalen Ballage and be like, yo, but like look at that motherfucker. You know what I mean? And get excited about it because of that. But Piron doesn't even have that going for him. So.
Hey, he's related to Samaje, and that guy was pretty good for a little bit.
Are they actually related?
No,
probably not. It's to be like a Booger McFarland type of thing where we speak it into existence.
It would make sense. Like they're both the same running back. They just like don't do anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just one lesson you'll learn from P. Ryan if you do invest in him, and 1 year from now you come back and say, sorry, I didn't list you guys, is you don't invest in backups thinking they're going to become the starter next year when someone leaves, because they're not good enough, and there's always an incoming rookie class. So just don't make that mistake.
Yeah, usually the rookies that are good enough to be the starter are competing right out of the gate. They don't you don't get drafted to be a backup. They don't do like the way they draft Jordan Love to be the quarterback of the future. They don't do that with running backs. They're not that valuable of fucking picks. So
I think they'll groom P. Ryan there. He fits the scheme well. He'll get like 2.5 yards of carry and then catch like a 2-yard dump off.
I heard Adam Gase is the running back whisperer.
Bro just stares him down with his googly eyes until they fucking run the ball.
He's like, this is how you elude tackles.
Watch my.
All right, let's talk wideouts. I'm enough of fucking P. Ryan.
All right, next up, wideout. Pretty popular name, definitely one of the more divisive ones. You know, we've been pretty firm where we stand. I know Nick actually still likes him a little bit, but it's Henry Ruggs, currently going as the 14th overall pick off the board, so which probably would be a first-round pick in your regular 1 QB leagues, 2.02. Positional wise, he's going as a wide receiver 5. So after the big tier of CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Jerry Jeudy, and Justin Jefferson. And the reason why, you know, I think I'm fading him here is just because the wide receiver class in the next bucket runs so deep. So I don't really want to invest in like a top of the tier when I can get guys who I like, who Noah hates and Nick hates later on, but guys like T. Higgins and Laviska Shenault and, you know, Brian Edwards, some of these guys you can get for much cheaper. So that's kind of why we're fading him, because I don't want to pick him that early. Like, what do you guys think about? Are you guys comfortable taking him as a wide receiver 5?
Yeah, I don't think that price is like egregious, but as you said, right, when you can get guys like Laviska Shenault, I'm not sure where he's going, probably like the 209, 210 range, or like a Brian Edwards who's been consistently going like early round 3. Obviously, I think Henry Ruggs is the better player. He got picked higher, but for fantasy purposes, right, Brian Edwards is going to be in that possession role for the Las Vegas Raiders that we saw like a Michael Crabtree do well in. Laviska Shenault walks into Jacksonville where they gave D.D. Westbrook over 100 targets last year, and Chris Conley had like 90. So there's just so much more opportunity in other places, and it's not like those other receivers are bad too, right? Like Henry Ruggs is good in his own right, but those other guys are very talented. So as you said, Mike, like I've been on the clock early round 2, and he's just been staring me in the face, and I tried to move back and I just couldn't. So I had to bite the bullet and draft Henry Ruggs. But that's not to say I don't think he'll never be good for fantasy. I think that he's going to be a high upside player that definitely in best ball is going to give you a ton of value. But as you said, like that next tier isn't that far off from Ruggs. And when you have to pay that price, when you can just drop down and get other guys that are very similar, that's definitely what you want to do for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I'm starting to get like unreasonably high on Laviska Shenault, I think. Like,
Same here.
I'm not really sure where this came from. I was not really high on him throughout the entire process, but the more I think about that landing spot, like the more I like how they're probably going to use him. But the same goes for Ruggs. Like the reason why I like Ruggs relative to other people is because most people are stupid and they don't understand how the Raiders are going to use Ruggs. Ruggs is going to be a line of scrimmage type of guy. Yep. Like Ruggs is not Deshaun Jackson. Ruggs is bigger. Ruggs is I don't want to say faster. Ruggs is taller. Ruggs is heavier. Ruggs is a different version of Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson is a deep threat. Go down the field and get the ball. Ruggs is like get the ball in his hands quickly and let him use that speed to make defenders miss. A lot of slants, a lot of screen plays, a lot of right by the line of scrimmage, which tells me that he has more of a floor than I think people realize, because they're going to manufacture, like you can't manufacture Hail Marys, right? Like you're lucky if that shit gets complete, but you can manufacture touches by the line of scrimmage. So I think Ruggs has a higher floor than most people realize, and maybe he's got a lower ceiling than I think a lot of people are giving him credit for. So, you know, we all like to say that Brian Edwards is probably like the possession receiver, but they also took him 2 rounds later. So they have a plan for why they wanted Ruggs so much worse than why they wanted Brian Edwards. So like Ruggs, again, he's not a guy I'm going to be targeting. Like I'm definitely not taking him over those top guys. Like I'd rather have the Jeudy and those types of guys. But I'm not going to be mad about getting Ruggs on my team, because I do think that he will surprise people. If they use him correctly, I think he'll be a really good fantasy asset, which I wouldn't put past Gruden.
So something that like I just did a rookie draft and I was sitting there at the 202 and I was hoping, 203 maybe. And someone traded up in front of me to grab Henry Ruggs. And I was like super sad because I thought they were trading up in front of me to get Keyshawn Vaughn. It's like a 0.25 points per carry league. Would you guys take Henry Ruggs or Keyshawn Vaughn? Because that's like a 3rd round wide running back versus like a number 1 wide receiver overall.
Yeah, Ruggs. For me, it's Ruggs easy. I think the Vaughn train is getting a little too fucking I think you're paying for like hopefully a 1 year like hopefully top 15 running back, because like they could draft someone next fucking year and Vaughn
Yep.
could be in Rojo's position now next year. You know what I mean? Like, and that's probably like a likely outcome. So I'll definitely take Ruggs there.
I was in a situation, I think it was a 201 and 202, and I just grabbed both, so I didn't have to make that decision. But when it comes down to it, I think I would just go Vaughn, unless you really need a receiver, which in Dynasty, I mean, you can acquire them pretty cheap compared to a running back, but I'd rather just take the shot on Vaughn, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Next up, a San Francisco wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk.
Are we all going to be wrong on Brandon Ayuk? Like,
No.
are we all? Is
No.
he just going to ball out and like we're all just going to be like, oh well, it was Shanahan's scheme. We should have known that he was.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's not like Shanahan is some like wide receiver whisperer. You know what I mean? Like, got Dante Pettis, got Debo Samuel last year, who's good, right? But who went after Debo Samuel was AJ Brown. So like, I'm not like, I don't think like because he landed there, I'm going to be like, wow, this guy's like super good because John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are some like wide receiver whisperers. So to me, I'm not really taking that into account. But he does have the draft capital. He's currently going as the 18th player overall, or the 2.06. And again, comes down to the fact of who's going behind him, right? Like, we have guys like Laviska Shenault, who I have been like in love with ever since I found out he got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who's going as a wide receiver 10. We got Brian Edwards going behind him as a wide receiver 11. Just a couple guys I like a little bit more, so more options back there, which is why he's a fade for me. And also, like, I mean, I've said this many times, but I don't like him from an analytical profile perspective. Guys like him just don't really succeed all that often. Could he break the mold? I'm sure he could, right? But that's like a bet that I'm not willing to make.
Yeah, for me, like, you want receivers that can do like one of three things, right? Either catch a ton of passes that gives you a lot of value in PPR, catch a ton of touchdowns, or give you deep plays, right? He's not going to be a guy that's going to catch a lot of passes because this team last year went to the Super Bowl passing the ball 49% of the time. I don't see that changing much. Even if it does, he's going to be well like third in line behind Debo Samuel and George Kittle. He's not going to be a touchdown threat because I looked it up. The San Francisco 49ers were fourth lowest pass percentage in the league to throw to their wide receivers. That didn't make any sense. I'm sorry. They threw to their wide receivers the fourth lowest percentage in the red zone. Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't look there. What happened?
Use the word rate. They threw to the wide receivers at the fourth lowest rate.
My bad. And on top of that, right, Jimmy Garoppolo is not throwing the ball deep. He threw the ball deep 31 times last year, which tied with Drew Brees as the least among all quarterbacks with over 10 games played, and Drew Brees only played 11. So he was throwing less than 2 deep balls per game, and we want Ayuk to be that downfield burner. He's also really good after the catch, but I just don't see the volume there for him to return value, whereas you can get a guy like Laviska Shenault later who has a similar skill set and an offense that's actually going to have volume in it.
Yeah, he's like what Mike said with was it Josh Kelly? Whoever it was that you were like, oh, he keeps coming up. Oh, no, it was Darrington Evans. It's like when Brandon Ayuk keeps coming up on the clock, I'm just like, I'm not gonna pick that guy. It's like you could make the argument either way. You could be like, this is the good, this is the bad. It's just there's just not a lot of. He's going to be one of those players who are definitely better for the NFL than he is for fantasy. I think it's kind of clear given that best case scenario is that he's the third most used weapon in an offense that doesn't really pass the ball that much. So the ceiling really isn't there. Maybe the floor is there, but around that same spot where you have guys like Viska, I mean, his ceiling is so fucking high that I don't think it warrants even looking at Brandon Ayuk.
Do you
we have another guy on
Michael Pittman?
What's up?
Michael Pittman or Brandon Ayuk?
I'll take Pittman there.
I'll take Pittman because they're both kind of like same style of profile, but I think Pittman can win in a couple more ways than he can.
Yeah, so the next guy up on our list, and I can't really even say that he's on my list because I took him in one of my rookie drafts recently at the 204, which I don't regret. The reason I regret it is because I don't know why. I wanted Michael Pittman really, really, really badly. I mean, T. Higgins ends up in Cincy where he'll have every opportunity to succeed, right? He's coming into the same year as Joe Burrow, their new quarterback for X number of years. So they'll have the chemistry there for a long time. Higgins was another guy from like when we very, very first started doing these dynasty videos. I don't see a lot of like playmaking ability on the field past like his electric, jumping and getting up and getting the ball. I like players who can make plays with the balls in their hands. And Pittman was just a guy that I saw him do that like so often this year. He just looked kind of dominant. And the more I saw tape on him, the more I liked him, which is why I regret the pick. So with Higgins, it's not necessarily I hate the landing spot, but I do think the fact that he's going to 203, there are a lot of good players that are getting picked like right behind him.
Yeah, for me, it's the same case as Henry Ruggs, right? Like he probably deserves to be going around this range, and I chose him too. I think I got him at like the 205, but I don't know. I just feel like year one, it's going to be hard to beat out AJ Green if AJ Green is healthy. And then on top of that, like, what if Joe Burrow struggles? What if T Higgins isn't on the field? Like his value is going to plummet, kind of like a N'Keal Harry this past year, right? He was going like as a top 5 dynasty as a rookie pick last year, and now this year, sure, you might say, oh, I'm not going to sell the 112 to get N'Keal Harry, but like you're mid round 2 and people are still not pulling the trigger to acquire N'Keal Harry for that price. I can kind of see a similar situation to T Higgins where if he's not on the field and Joe Burrow goes out against like Baltimore twice a year and the Steelers twice in his rookie year and he shows a little bit of struggle, like I think if it's not the safest bet, right? Because if T Higgins goes out his rookie year and he plays really well, you're not going to be able to acquire him for less than what you've got him in the startup, but in your rookie draft. But I just think that a guy who, like Nick said, right, he's really good at jump balls. We've seen in the past people that don't come into the league polished and aren't like able to separate and rely on those jump ball skills take a little bit to develop. And that's not to say I don't think T Higgins is ever going to be a good player, because I think his skill set fits Joe Burrow really well, because we saw him with Jamar Chase just like throw so many dimes down the sideline. But year 1 to year 2, I could see his value kind of dipping off, whereas a guy like Mims or Chenault a little bit later, we have to pay a cheaper price to get them, could kind of have a more steady price, and then you could flip them a little bit later. Mike, I know you have a different opinion. I know you love T Higgins, so tell me why I'm so wrong on this.
Dude, I love T Higgins. Okay, I love everything about him. When he got picked to the Bengals, I love that too. I just think, like, look, if we're gonna believe in Burrow, which I do, and if we're gonna believe in this organization for now, which I do, because I do think they have a good offense, they do use a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Because what's his face? Zach Stacy, is that his name?
No,
Comes
Zach
from
Taylor.
Zach. Sorry, yeah, Zach Taylor.
Too many fat running backs.
Yeah.
The Bengals fucking wish they had Zach Stacy.
Yeah, Zach Taylor does come from, did like come from, what's his name? Sean. Dude, I'm blanking on names today. Yeah, Sean McVay.
Don't worry about coaches.
Yeah. I think he's coming from that philosophy. So, look, Auden Tate got on the field a decent amount last year when he was healthy, and he was able to ball out a little bit. So I think him playing that third fiddle to Boyd and AJ Green is going to be good for him, because he's not ready to be a wide receiver 1. But I do think he can be someone that produces year 1, because you can manufacture touches. I don't think he's just a deep threat and a jump ball specialist. I think he understands like nuances of the game pretty well. We know that he I love like analytical profiles where guys that break out super early, and he is someone that just like got on the field right away and produced as a rookie, and then blew up as a sophomore and continued to ball out. So I think like I'm buying that offense, and I'm buying that tie with Joe Burrow. And if Joe Burrow is what we think he is, even if he doesn't like blow everything out of the sky like Mahomes in the first year, and he does and puts out like a decent year, I think Higgins is going to be part of that. And then I think trying to buy him after is going to be a little bit tougher, because you're going to have AJ Green leaving. So people are going to have that built-in expectation that Higgins is going to be like the guy, the dog going forward, because we know Boyd is more of like a flanker role. So I think like from that perspective, that's why I'm kind of fine buying on him at his current price.
Yeah, for me, if I'm like contending right now, and I know I'm like kind of impatient, which is counterintuitive for Dynasty, but if you know you are in that mold, I think that T Higgins is somebody you'd want to fade, just because even Mike, who believes in him, thinks as well that he's not going to have a great rookie year. And if that happens, if he has like a JJ Arcega-Whiteside type of rookie year, or a DJ Chark, and you sell them for a lot less than that they should be going for based on their draft capital and their college production, then you're losing out on a ton of value, and you're probably selling them to somebody who's rebuilding and is going to reap those rewards. And if you do sell them for like a 2021 second, and you pick a receiver that's in the same mold as T Higgins, then you probably just get T Higgins all over again and get another guy who's not going to produce in their rookie year. So that's why I just think that maybe if you wait, and if these hypotheticals all play out, you get to skip out on his rookie year where he isn't productive, and you get him in that year 2 like bounce. But as you said, Mike, yeah, it's pretty risky to do it, but I'm a man that gambles on the Chargers, so I'm not afraid to put my chips in the middle of the table there.
Yep. I think next one is a pretty easy decision for me and for Noah, but it's Chase Claypool. This pick kind of boggled me a little bit, and at first I was like, like Pittsburgh picked him, maybe I should take another look. I took another look. I still can't do it. He's currently going as the 27th overall pick at the top of the 3rd round at 3.03 as the wide receiver 12. The reason why I can't do it is because KJ Hamler's going right behind him. And for me, it's like they're very similar situations. Obviously, Pittsburgh might have a better passing defense if Big Ben is healthy, but they're both kind of like that 3rd, 4th option. But Hamler just has like a way better profile. And what if we're wrong about like Jerry Jeudy, right? What if Jerry Judy's not everything he's made out to be? Like they took Hamler in the 2nd round. we can, people make the case that he's a decoy, kind of like Ruggs is a decoy. But I think in both cases, like, you're not going to invest a first round pick and a second round pick with the intent of making them a decoy. Like, that's like a stupid concept to me. Sometimes they turn out to be that because they're not that good. But I think just like at his price, I've been finding myself clicking the draft on Hamler a lot lately.
Yeah, he's like one of the best values, just straight up best values in drafts this year. I think that like if we look back and he does well, if he plays out and has like a really good rookie contract or whatever, there are just so many reasons you could point to why that happened. One, because he's a really good player. Two, because he had second round capital. Three, he has great speed. Four, like, we're talking about all these weapons that they have, but like, I mean, it's Sutton, and then the rest of them are unproven as fuck. So one of them falls out, and then, Hamler could be, like you said, the second target. I'm not going to say I think that's going to happen, but what if this offense takes a really big step forward and they actually become a good passing offense? Like, that's also in the cards here. So Hamler has a lot of things to like about him. The situation is clearly dragging him down really, really far, but Hamler's definitely a guy that I would be investing in right now.
Yeah. But this segment was about Claypool. So what do you think about Claypool?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, Claypool is interesting in the fact that he got such early draft capital, and it's the Steelers who draft wide receivers so well.
Wait, Nick, can I cut you off? I have a tweet that some Steelers fanboy sent me about 6'2" and taller receivers drafted by the Steelers in the past. Chase Claypool this year, Martavis Bryant, Justin Brown, Limas Swede, Dallas Baker, and Fred Gibson. And then he follows that up with Brown, Swede, Baker, and Gibson combined for 20 career catches. Fred Gibson did, however, score 7 points per game in the NBA D League in one season. So that's a pretty good hit rate.
Yeah, someone else actually put out a pretty cool thread. I forget his Twitter handle, but I think like 29 or something like that. And he basically went through each team's draft picks at wide receiver. And it turns out like the Steelers weren't that good at drafting wide receivers. We just remember it so much because they got AB in the sixth. They got Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Wallace, all these guys. But they had like a 25% hit rate, which was like just like average. So that kind of
honestly might have been me. I put out a tweet super similar to that. This was like last year, I think, or maybe like 2 years ago. Everyone's like, oh, the Steelers are so good. But I'm also like, if you get a couple big hits, you get known as like the team that drafts, but you still also have like fucking 30 misses. That's just, it's the way it works. So like, I mean, that I'm not going to take the 6'2" or bigger like thing for face value there, because that's just like so nitpicky. But most people don't like Claypool just as a prospect. They don't think he could really separate at the next level. And it does make sense. So if you want to buy into the whole Steelers thing, go for it. I think that's probably the wrong process to play when you're doing Dynasty though. Yeah,
Mike, you hit the nail on the head. Just watching this guy play, I don't understand. It's very similar to Miles Boykin last year, his former teammate, where he tests super athletically, right? Runs like a 4.4 at a huge size. But when you watch the guy play, he's not like jumping up and mossing people. He's not burning people deep. He's used like over the middle like a tight end. And from everything we've heard, he's not going to be a tight end in the NFL. They just brought in Eric Ebron. They have Deontay Johnson there. They have Juju Smith-Schuster there. Like, there's just too many mouths to feed. And I just don't see how his skill set fits into the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Yep. So I mean, I put out a tweet today earlier on this, but if you're on the clock in the third round and you're thinking about drafting Claypool, first see if Hamler's available. If he is, take Hamler. But second, try and flip that third and just send it to the James Washington owner and try and get James Washington. I don't like either player, but I would rather bet on James Washington going forward than I would betting on Claypool.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a good tweet. I agree with that as well. I think Washington got like people started shitting on him so much that he had like some good flashes last year where he had some good games. I'm like, he could still be good if Big Ben is actually healthy and on the field. So I like that a lot.
I think the 2019 wide receiver class kind of ruined our perception of young receivers in the NFL. Like before that year, we didn't expect any of these guys to really produce in their first or second years. And the fact that like Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, all these guys just broke out. Guys like James Washington, who I think are going to like their third year, right? Like this is the trend that they should be going on. Whereas Chase Claypool probably isn't going to fit into the mold of an AJ Brown, who, if he ever becomes good, is going to take a few years. And Mike, that's like a beautifully crafted tweet. Like if you want somebody who is going to provide any value for you, it's going to be James Washington, who is going into his third year and has shown that he's actually decent at football.
Yo, speaking of like, I don't remember who tweeted it yesterday. It might have been Ray or it might have been someone that does like Debbie. And they were talking about how like, imagine Etienne and Najee, like those guys came out this year in the class, how bad the running back class would be next year.
Yeah.
It would be so brutal. I wish it happened, like just so I could send that tweet over to Scott.
Yeah.
Like, Scott, your picks next year don't fucking matter, bro. Give me all of them.
You'd have Richie on the phone in 2 seconds.
Let's talk about tight ends.
Yeah, we're going to talk about one tight end, and it's tight end one off the board.
We'll talk about one tight end because there's literally only one tight end being drafted in rookie drafts.
Yeah, and it's Cole Kmet. He went in the second round to the Chicago Bears. First of all, just a shit situation to be in because that team is awful. They do have Nick Foles, so maybe a little bit of an upgrade, but he's currently going as the 31st pick overall in rookie drafts as the 3.07 as a tight end one. And to be honest, I don't think any tight end should be going in the third round. I'm not drafting any tight end in the third round unless it's a tight end premium, at which point I would consider Trout God, who is going as a tight end too. But Kmet, just like when I watch him, I just get a worse Kyle Rudolph, and I just don't. There's nothing about him that excites me. There's nothing that, he's gonna go and compete against Jimmy Graham, who's old as fuck, of course, but like Jimmy Graham's still gonna be Jimmy Graham for the days that he is healthy. And honestly, it's just just don't invest in tight ends, period. But definitely don't invest in Cole Kmet. That's my advice.
If you're holding weight in the fact that the Chicago Bears took him so early, also remember that they signed like 15 different tight ends, and they also brought in Trey Burton for probably an absurd amount of money, and he did absolutely nothing. So yeah, putting a lot of draft capital and weighing that heavily about Cole Kmet isn't smart to do. Maybe it's just the Notre Dame offense because Chase Claypool also looked like absolute garbage in college too, and so did Miles Boykin. So maybe they just ruin NFL careers like it's nobody's business. But yeah, Cole Kmet is somebody I'm not too high on. I'd much rather Adam Troutman, who's coming from a smaller school and he was less athletic, but in that New Orleans offense that wants to use tight ends, the fact that you can get him a little bit later, sure, he's not going to produce year one, but Cole Kmet's not going to produce in like year 25. So I'd much rather take that bet.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be producing in year 25.
But
point taken. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not taking Cole Kmet before Adam Troutman. I mean, if you just look at things objectively, like the situations they land in are polar fucking opposites. And the worry about New Orleans for Troutman is just that, like, what happens with Breeze. But the signing of Jameis Winston should make you feel really good as a Troutman owner, because Winston, like, he'll throw his fucking 25 interceptions, but he'll also throw like 10 red zone touchdowns to tight ends. Like we saw him make Cameron fucking Brate like an 8 touchdown a year guy for like a 3-year span. So if he could do that, Troutman can do that. So long term, I'm not really worried about it because they brought in Winston. So if you have to pick between one of them, like everybody else in this class, every other tight end is a complete dart throw that should be a waiver wire priority pickup and not drafted in the actual draft itself. But if you have to pick between these two, and you're obviously not drafting both of them, go with Troutman over Cole Kmet.
Yeah, and I stopped trusting Bears draft capital when they traded up for Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. Also, just a friendly reminder, they drafted Adam Shaheen in the second round as well, the 2017 draft. So it's not like they're a great place for evaluating talent. So,
dude,
Riley Ridley. You don't like
that? Did you see the 2015 tight end draft class?
Oh, I saw that tweet. That was disgusting.
Yo, it wasn't even like I left anyone out. It was straight up 19 out of 19 misses. Every tight end drafted.
George Kittle, I'm like, wow, there was no hits on this draft.
It wasn't even like an average, like not even like a Blake Jarwin, who at least someone could be like, oh, yo, I'm pretending to be excited about him. There was not one fucking guy on there that was like a legit still. And maybe there's a one like blocking tight end or something that I don't really know about, but holy shit, that was ugly. Let's talk about something a little prettier. And that is the Bunk Bed Breakdown Listener League winners. What do you want them to do if they do win this? Do you want them to email you somewhere or what?
We want them to pay into the league. I'll DM all these guys so they know that they actually won.
You want them to send offers?
Yes, definitely send offers.
Send nudes?
Yannick's
no nudes.
So I don't know about that.
No nudes,
so Mike and I are going to be sharing a team. But the rest of you guys, there's obviously 11 other spots, and Nick is not one of them because he's not a loyal listener. So at the 102, we have our man Serge on the beach. We found him.
Love you, Serge.
We also have Enana Nubis, FF Guru 420. And then on the iTunes store, our man, The Big Peen 11. A really nice review. And then also Mr. Devins to you, Eno SC _ on iTunes, T-Fell Nasty. Twitter, Josh Verzi, 704 Keep Pounding, T-Matt 1989, I know when you were born, and The Jump Rope. So you guys were the lucky winners. There weren't too many others, so I'm sorry if you got left out. I kind of feel bad about that, but I'll be either DMing you. If you are on iTunes, reach out to one of us because I have no clue how to contact you through there, but we'll get you in the league. We'll get all paid in. We'll draft as soon as we can, and Mike and I will try to take you guys down, but we're the biggest frauds in the industry, so we'll probably go like 0-12 this year and just disappear into the night.
Probably. But yeah, we'll post a graphic. Some of those were pretty hard to pronounce. We'll post a graphic showing you who won, and just DM us on Twitter or DM us on Discord, and we'll try and get things organized and going.
That's it.
Nope. Last thing.
What the fuck?
This week's narrative. Had to get this off my chest because it was pissing me off. But this week's narrative. Hit the narrative.
Speak on it, Mike.
All right. You need to sell CMC so you don't miss the sell window. Shut the fuck up. That's all I have to say on this, okay? Because look, no disrespect. Because look, I mean, I'm sure there's smart guys in there that are
hella disrespect
that are crunching numbers out there. But this is like fantasy just doesn't have to be hard, guys. It just doesn't have to be hard. But for some reason, people love to make it hard. Like CMC is a once in a decade type of a fantasy asset, and I often compare him to Marshall Faulk, or I compare him to LT, and that's not a hyperbole, right? It's like actually warranted based on what he's done. And I put out a tweet, and we'll try and share the graphic if we can, but if you look at them through the first 3 years here, like he's very much on par with what they did. So through first 3 years, CMC had 623 carries, 2.9K rushing yards, which is pretty incredible. 24 rushing touchdowns, 303 receptions, 2.5K receiving yards, and 15 receiving touchdowns. He is more efficient as a receiver than most wide receivers, okay? Compare that to LT. LT had about 1,000 carries for 4.5K rushing yards, 37 rushing TDs. What a fucking beast. 238 receiving receptions for 1.5K yards and 5 receiving TDs. So 6K total yards from scrimmage and 42 TDs. He's the GOAT. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Falk.
All this Chargers slander today, I needed to hear that.
Falk, 801. 2.9K, 29 TDs, 164 receptions, 1.4K yards, and 4 receiving TDs. So 4K yards from scrimmage and 33 receiving touchdowns. So CMC is kind of like right in the middle of these two, right? And people are like scared about selling this guy after his first 3 years because they think that he's going to hit some sort of like age cliff or whatever. Do you want to know what LT and Falk did for the next 5 years? They put up damn near 10,000 yards from scrimmage and 77 to 99 touchdowns between the two. Are you trying to fade this once in a generation asset? Like, I put out a meme on this. It's the Drake meme. And literally, like, it boggles my mind that people worry about winning trades more than winning championships. If you have a championship roster with CMC on it, you better fucking give me your firstborn, your secondborn, and be willing to chop off your dick because I'm not going to sell him for anything less than that.
Yeah, that's kind of a fire. That's kind of a fire saying right there. I think we could put that on merch. Winning trades, greater sign, winning champion.
Yeah,
for dynasty players. But wait, hold on. Christian McCaffrey's 23.9 years old, which means he'll be 30. He'll be 28 by the time next season starts.
Yeah, but he catches passes, so he's not Derrick Henry. So
dude, almost 10,000 yards from scrimmage over that. You know what's happened over the last few years? We've been accustomed to running backs getting work for like a couple years and then just getting thrown fucking into the trash. Yeah. So when we see a guy like Christian McCaffrey, our first instinct is like, you've been fucking heartbroken by someone so many times, you can't be crawling back to that, right? So Christian McCaffrey is like scaring people. We're here to tell you, don't be scared, baby. Don't be scared. We're going to jump right through this together, except for Noah, because he trades away Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, Noah did a trade. Noah did a trade. And we're not saying like punt away like Godfather offers, right? Like we talked about what you should trade Christian McCaffrey for. You should not be trading him at value. You should not be trading him at value of a typical 1.01 because he is not a typical 1.01. You should be getting a Godfather offer where you literally bend the other side over and get everything they have. If you're not doing that, just don't sell if you're competing. Just win. Just win, baby.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy, so I didn't completely bend them over. I kind of just gave him a kiss on the cheek and said goodnight. But, like, I think I got Josh Allen, the 106, Joe Mixon, and DK Metcalf for him, and then Devin Singletary, Jameis Winston, and Devontae Parker. So it was like a downgrade it was an upgrade.
You better hope Winston don't play starting quarterback for the next 10 years, or else you fucking took that one in the hole, man.
I know that's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about. But in that league, the reason I did that trade is because I had Kyler Murray and my QB2 is Ryan Fitzpatrick and then Jameis Winston, and I'm kind of competitive, so it did hurt to see CMC leave my roster. But I got basically startup pick wise like 2 seconds for CMC, and then like the 106 and DK Metcalf for like Devontae Parker, Devin Singletary, and Jameis Winston. That's how I kind of looked at it. So I definitely didn't get the Godfather haul that Mike is talking about, but Yeah, he's definitely somebody you don't want to go out and like actively try to sell. You brought up the sell window. Like his sell window is a bay window, and every other running back sell window is like a prison cell window. Like his sell window lasts from now until
How long?
32.
How long were you thinking about that one for?
A while. I was trying to cut in earlier. My mind gets stuck on one thing, but he's a guy who's going to catch a ton of passes. I saw some tweet. I'll see if I can find it, put it on the screen. But I think of all players through their first 3 years in the NFL, he had like the third most receptions behind like Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas, which is absurd.
Yeah, it's just insane. Like you just can't fade this type of player because the point advantage they give you in a single slot is insane. Like if you're in a league that plays 8 starters, first of all, don't do that. Just expand the roster size. But if you are, like, you should not trade Christian McCaffrey. Period. Like there's
trading there are sell windows are a thing in Dynasty fantasy football, but like sell windows are for guys like Julio Jones, who's 31 years old, not a 23-year-old Christian McCaffrey. Guys, holy shit,
he's almost 24, so you can kind of justify it, but.
All right, boys. That's the strongest I ever felt about any opinion in my life. I just had to say it because I saw too much of this bullshit over the week on Twitter. Just hang in there and just win.
Shit.
Just win, boys.
Love you. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed. Anything else?
No, that's it.
True.